Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all are good and your families as well. May Allah save us all from this disaster, from this epidemic. Ameen. And today the course is the 20th century English novel for Master of Arts. Course code is ENGL 4111. I'm Shahzadi Samra. The topic that we'll discuss today is about A Passage to India by Edward Morgan Foster. Foster is a realist and traditional novelist in English literature, and this work was published in, I guess, 1924. It was written in 1924. So this is the modern work, and obviously if it is a work of modern era, then the techniques he has used in the work also be modernist techniques. So moving on to the symbolism. Today the topic of our lecture is the symbolism in A Passage to India. Sorry. First, I would like you to know about what is symbolism. Before moving on to symbolism, I guess there isn't any need for me to give a background or to give a little bit of info about A Passage to India, as you have already I guess went through the 4 lectures about it, and now this is the 5th one about the symbolism. And symbolism, what is symbolism? Symbolism basically is organized and a literary and artistic movement. It began in the late 19th century, and the French poets, they started this, or they originated this movement. But the reason was, as in writing or in painting, in any artistic movement, in any art, the artist was not given much freedom to express. So those poets, they started this movement so that they may have freedom, they may have individual freedom of expression. So this movement, it spread to painting and the theater, and later on in the 20th century it also influenced the European and American literatures. And it is basically about the individual emotional experience, that they started it because with the help of this movement, they thought that an individual will be able to express the emotional experience through the highly symbolized language by using the subtle and the other means of language, like the non-verbal language as well. So the symbols can be any object, any person, any situation, events or action that have a deeper meaning in context. So these devices were basically used in literature to help understand a literary work by giving them additional meaning. And authors often use different symbols to represent a particular concept, and throughout various forms of literature, there are many symbols that are used in the works of modern artists. And other than those other than the symbolism, there are other literary devices that they use, the metaphor, allegory, allusion, and many more. So the Foster, in Passage to India, he has also used such symbols to give meaning, or to give the deeper understanding of his work. A Passage to India basically is a novel which depicts the colonial rule, and in order to explore the differences between British and the Indian, and those differences are based on their cultures. So basically this novel, it does depicts the cultural difference of British and India, and the thinking of those people, and it also depicts the colonial rule or the impacts of the colonial rule, that how they were still they are still present, those those effects of the colonial rule are still present. So the Foster, he has used this movement, this technique in his novel, and the novel contains like a great amount of symbolism, as well as the other literary devices like a metaphor, allegory, allusion, personification, and alliteration for the development of symbolism. So he has used many symbols, and we'll discuss about the most important and the major symbols in the work, and he uses this through his novel to prove points that otherwise would have had the same or intended effect on the reader. And being a modernist, has used those symbols to give a clear and the deep meaning through the objects. And like A Passage to India is a modern work sorry, and it portrays the inner life of the Indian society during the period of colonization. It also sheds light on the complexity between two different societies, like the Indian society and the British society. It also describes the internal and external conflicts between the Indian society and the British one. Foster has created this novel on social, cultural, and psychological, political clash between different characters, and he uses different, like I already told you, that he used different devices to reflect literal meaning through the objects and symbols. So he uses the notion of symbolism in different forms. Let's see what those forms are. Okay, the first one is the, as we already know that this work is divided into three parts, basically in three sections. The first one is the a mosque. Second was the one is the fictional Marabar Caves, which in reality depicts the Marabar Caves. And the caves echo, the caves and the caves echo, they both are interlinked. And the third one is the temple. The mosque, Marabar Caves, and temple, basically the novel is divided into these three section, and the section itself holds a like a symbolic representation, symbolic signification in the work. First one is the mosque. The second one is the Marabar Caves. Third, the caves echo, the temple, and the green bird. There are other symbols, but these are the symbols that are the most important, and in the work. And let's move on. The mosque. I've just posted the picture of the Badshahi Mosque in order to just make it colorful. Okay, so the mosque, it is a just common understanding that what a mosque does symbolize. It symbolizes friendship, above all equality, peace, solace, serenity, and spiritual comfort. So you might have heard about that piece of poetry. एक सफ में खड़े हो गए महमूदो अयाज, ना कोई बंदा रहा ना कोई बंदा नवाज. So this shows the equality basically, and whenever we visit mosque, it brings the inner peace, and in the work it does symbolize these things as well. and the first part of the novel, that it starts from where that there is a mosque and an English woman and a young Indian man. They meet there, and the Aziz. So Aziz, the Muslim doctor, he entered the mosque to get the peace of mind, and similarly, the English woman, the Mrs. Moore, she was bored because of the entertainment, dull entertainment at the British clubs, and she got an escape, a kind of escape in the mosque. So the both of them entered the mosque to seek shelter. It is a place of an escape or place to shelter, for shelter from the oppressive surroundings, from the cruel surroundings. After conversation with Mrs. Moore finds that Aziz is a warm and sensitive man, and ultimately an understanding of each occurs. So this understanding of the heart, in other words, friendship, is the dominant urge at this stage and expresses the most general meaning of the mosque, a symbol of the novel. And the mosque, with its serene beauty, its combination of light and dark shades, represents a belief in the oneness of God, as well the oneness of the India, and therefore it also symbolizes the possibility of understanding and friendship between people of different races, different creeds, different colors. So the equality, that there isn't any difference whenever you are in a mosque, whenever for example whenever during Hajj or Umrah, the people from all over the world, they gathered there, and no one asks the other person that from what is your race. No one, there isn't any difference of races, there doesn't remain any difference of color or nation. Everyone is there to worship God, to seek comfort, to seek tranquility. So everyone is visit that place for their own purpose, that the holy pilgrimage. So the mosque is the same, not quite, but the same. So the friendship that established between the East and the West, like the Mr. Aziz and the Mrs. Moore, represented represented by those both characters, is undercut by the ironical message of the bridge party, and the party that proves to be a failure if you have read the text of the novel. So the mosque, it ultimately it is the place of worship, Islamic place of worship basically, and it is it is a place where you can find comfort, you can find the peace of mind and peace of inner soul, and you can find spiritual solace over there. So mosque does hold a strong significance in the. So our so that was all about the symbol of mosque, and how it is, how it has a significant place in the work. Now the next one is the Marabar Caves. Marabar Caves, basically the caves, fictional caves, and basically the caves that are originally or in the India are the Marabar Caves, and he didn't just use the exact name, he just used a fictional name for those caves. And these caves that loom throughout the book as a symbol of the mysteries, not only of India but of the of the universe as well. So the very location that seems mysterious because they are far away from the human habitation, and are set in hills that seem to have suddenly erupted from a plain. And while people have explored some of them, there are thought to be countless others never yet seen by human eyes. Before the expedition, almost none of the characters know anything about them or can describe them, and the only one who can, the Professor Godball, apparently can't or doesn't want to put it into words. So even after the people explore them, the caves remain a mystery, and they seem to symbolize all that remains unknown and unknownable in the world. So even to most rational and scientific minds, so the eye cannot really see them. Even when someone lights a candle inside, only the flame is visible, and the mystery of what happened to the Adela in the Marabar Caves is never cleared up. So the rational people can speculate that they cannot know. So these are these caves. They are basically as old as the universe is, and nothing is older than the caves on the planet Earth. Anything else on the planet Earth. So it embodies nothingness and emptiness, and it depicts the literal void in the earth. So the representation of the Marabar Caves is clear and meaningful. It portrays the nature and alien images of the world earth, and it also depicts the oldest place in that period. And Foster used this symbol to show the nature of India as well as the alienness of this some character. And it also gives the darkness or the it also reveals the darkest parts of the humans. So it also shows the fear of the future, and once you enter in the cave, you don't know what will happen, and what will come across you, and what will you can face. So it shows the chaos, darkness, mystery, hollowness, as whenever you say something, you feel a kind of if you have ever visited any cave or any underground station, it has a hollowness in it, and because of the hollowness, there is always a echo of sound. So the caves, they are hollow, they are cold. There is a cold, the atmosphere and the temperature is a bit different from the outside temperature. They are a kind of cold, and it represents the nothingness, because there isn't any life of anything. There isn't anything that depicts life. Rather, those caves are stony, and they just depict the rigidness and the nothingness of life. It's also a place of worship. The other perception of the caves is that it is also a place of worship and a place of self-reflection, that it gives you to time for the realization. It like in the cave, no one will disturb you, so you have time for self-awareness, you have time for realization. So that is how it does help in the self-reflection. And in the work, when they enter in the caves, they do reflect themselves. They just face the Adela and Mrs. Move, they face their darkest sides in the caves. So that is another perception, that caves does reflect the inner parts, the darkest parts of your personality. It brings out the darkest parts of your personality. So so these caves, they defy both English and Indians to act as guides to them, and their strange beauty and menace unsettle the visitors. So the cave's alien quality has also the power to make visitors such as Mrs. Moore and Adela confront part of themselves or the universe that they have not previously recognized. So the all reducing egg of the case causes Mrs. Moore to see like to see the darker side of her spirituality, and Adela confronts the embarrassing truth and shame, and she came to the realization about her relationship with Ronnie, that they are not actually attracted to each other. It is just a mere, mere you may say illusion. And on the other hand, the Mrs. Moore, this help the self reflections she faces or she confronts with is that. About her spirituality, that she comes to know that about her commitment to the worldly relationships and her growing ambivalence about God. So they both they confront their darkest parts, and the caves in this sense, in this perception, it means the caves they both destroy the meaning. And there are some aspects of the caves that one cannot understand, or the people they don't have yet interpreted those meanings or those aspects of the caves, because the caves are the silent or mysterious parts of the earth, and the silent in the caves is sheer silent, and you can hardly find such kind of coldness, hollowness and silence in any other part on the earth. So the cave echoes, the echoes in the caves, it does have separate significance in the work as a symbol, and it is also relevant to the Marabar Caves. So I put it in this as a part of the Marabar Caves instead of putting it as a separate, because it is also a motif in the work. So the echo in the passage of India, passage to India, has another literal meaning. It starts at the caves when Mrs. Moore hears the sound of boom. So it is also heard by Adela when she enters the cave, and this denial of difference embodies the scary side of the positive Hindu unity of all the living things. So if all the people and things become same thing, then no difference cannot be made between good and evil. So no value system can exist without this. So so the echo basically, it is no matter what sound you produce in the cave, it will always give you the sound of boom in back. In this way, the echo symbolizes an ideal Hindu vision and or the world in which one is united with the universe, but in a dark way. This aspect of echo, it horrifies Mrs. Moore and causes her to see no distinction between between the very different phenomena, like the pathos, piety, courage, filth, rape, marriage. These although the words are different, or the context of the words are also different, and the perception of the words are also different, but the concept that of the Hindus, that one is united with the universe but in a dark way, it causes her to become completely apathetic about and vary of all the normal concerns of human life. So almost for 2 years or until her death, this echo plagues her, and causing her to abandon her beliefs and to cease care about the mere worldly relationship. And it also for Adela, the echo also seems to symbolize the muddle or the confusion of her memory about what happened to her in the cave. So, while she persists in the idea that Aziz followed her into the cave, the echo remains. So when she dismisses this notion, the echo disappears automatically. So the echo also symbolizes this is an echo in the sense of sound that carries a long way. When there is an echo, it goes a long way. It creates the can the frequency and the vibration in the long way. So the effect of that moment in the cave carries through the entire book, and it doesn't cease until 2 years. As I told you earlier, for 2 years she was haunted by that echo and the Mrs. Moore, and for 2 years later, in the Mao, when Fielding and Aziz they reconcile. So this occurs in a series of events, the echoing earlier events, with Aziz calling an English name Moore and an Oriental, and then giving him a tour of an aspect of India he himself doesn't understand. So that is how the echoes and the caves, they just symbolize is that everything is a part of another thing. No, you cannot differentiate one thing or separate one thing from the other thing. Things are interlinked, and no matter what this worldly life, it is nothing. So this is that is what symbolizes or signified by the Marabar Caves and the caves echo. So next one is the temple. So like mosque, temple is also a place of worship for the Hindus. So the important thing between the temple and the mosque is, although they serve the same purpose, but their architect was so important. He depicted the architect in a way the foster that eastern and western architect to differentiate between them, and he also indicated through the architect about the personalities of the people, that what kind of people were the western people, and what kind of the eastern people were. So through architect he also depicted this phenomena. And apart from that, he also the temple and the mosque, they also serve the other purposes as well. Like the temple, it is also a place of solace, serenity, openness, unity, because anyone can, like most anyone can visit temple, and you will always be welcomed in those places, and no one will stop you to enter in those places. And who, no matter, like in Hindu religion, they have in Islam we have sex, and in the Hindu religion they have always, like Brahmins is the most privileged sect in their religion. So they are divided on the basis of their religion as well. And while if you are in temple, it doesn't even matter from which sect you belong, and if you are in a mosque, it doesn't even matter from which class you belong, from which creed you belong. So it does temple and mosque, they both equalize the people, and it doesn't give you the superiorness on the basis of your color, creed, or their social status. it gives you it superiority on the basis of your acts. So the temple also it is depicts the openness, and also depicts the openness of that their religion, and the unity, and the concept of the unity of Hindu religion, that everything is united in the word, and in a positive and in a dark way both. And temple is also the third section of the novel, that it stands for love, harmony and happiness. It opens with the god balls presiding over over a festival, the celebration of the birth of Shri Krishna in a temple at Mao during the monsoons. So, amid all the noise and confusion of the celebration, the god is born symbolically, and the love celebrated. In celebrating the birth of the god, the Hindus, led by the wise Brahman, God Bole, assume that all creation is one, and shares in joy. So it is a vision of God as a universal friend who embraces all the people and things of this universe in His divine love. So it is also the notion of the temple. So the next one is the green bird. A green bird uh, is another used. He has used as a device, symbolic device, that depicts different things from the things we have previously discussed. Uh, it symbolizes the unidentifiable quality of all of the India. Unidentifiable means you cannot identify, you cannot labelize is some things, as the Indians they do not go on labeling things, and the Adela, as this green bird was observing in Adela and Ronnie when they were just breaking off their engagement, and they noticed it on the in the trees above them. So they couldn't just identify the bird. So for Adala, that it symbolizes the unidentifiable quality of all the India, that whenever she thinks that she can understand any aspect of India, that aspect changes or disappears. So in the sense that the green bird symbolizes the muddle of the India, the confusion, the bewilderment of the India. So according to her, that whenever she thinks that she has understood one thing, and there comes another things, and it just separate. So because the lack of understanding, it is because of the differences between the culture, difference between the languages, and the major difference because of the culture. So everyone if we have a tradition, and if we tradition in every culture, when we greet with our elders, so everyone greet their elder, but everyone every culture has a difference, different method, or different way of greeting their elders. So she was just unable to understand those things, Adela. And in another sense, it does symbolizes the tension between the English and the Indians, because the English, they are obsessed with the obsessed with the knowledge, with the literariness, and labelizing the things or classifying the things, and using tools for using these like their knowledge, their literariness, their civilization, their labelization, and they use these things as tools in for gaining power, and for for overpowering the or maintaining the power, overpowering the other nations or people. So the Indians, they are different from it, like they are attentive to the little details, and the emotions. They focus on the tones, they focus on the emotion. In the sense, we can say that the English, they are more of the logic person, and the East, West, the logic people, and the West, they sorry, the East, they are more of the people with emotions. So they remember her, the Eastern people, they remember things on the basis of the emotions, and while the West people, they remember things on the by labelizing them name on them. So what like in while the English, they insist on labeling things, and Indians recognize that labels can blind one to important details and differences, and the unidentifiable, the green bird suggests the incompatibility of the English obsession with classification and order with the shifting quality of India itself and the land. So in fact, 100 Indias that defy labeling and understanding. So that was just a green bird for the Indians, and green bird for the English, it was just kind of, annoying or confusing, because they were just unable to it was not annoying, but intolerable, you may say. So they were just getting curious that what it can be, from which class it belongs. So these things also symbolize the difference between the English West and Eastern people. So there is another, the symbol, that is the wasp. Wasp, in the West, it basically just depicts that when Mrs. Moore, she saw the wasp on her coat sleeping, and she said, she calls it a pretty deer, and who thinks of wasp as a pretty deer? Means everyone is afraid of that thing because of its sting. So but it does show the nature, or the chapter 3 of this novel represents that an object of indiscriminate love from a Hindu perspective. And when Mrs. Moore said pretty dear, it does depict, or it does illustrate her ability to love anything of beauty, no matter how alien it may be. It just depicts her nature. So the Indians, or presumably Hindus, who discuss the kingdom of Favan with Mr. Sorley in chapter 4, test the Christian missionaries' broad-mindedness, and when they ask if a wasp may receive God's love. Finally, the wasp appears along with Mrs. Moore in the mind of Professor Godbley during the religious festival in Mao. So when he is trying to love all things equally, so it's as if the Foster is saying, if one can love wasp, one can love anything. So if Mrs. Moore, she loved that thing, it means she was able to love everything. And they presume that in the Hindu as well, the concept of unity means if you can love a wasp, that stingy thing, it means you can love anything. You cannot, you won't be, means you are a kind of person who won't be able to hate anything. So these are some important symbols, and he has also used some metaphors, and some he also used allegory and personification, uh, okay, so to conclude, we can say that like Foster is a modernist novelist. He has depicted the features of modernism in his work, and in order to justify, in order to elaborate, or in order to give an understanding to his readers about those technique, about those features, he used different techniques like the symbolism, and in order to create more meanings of his work. And the symbols in the novel are multi-dimensional. Like a mosque, it gives different perceptions, different meanings. The temple gives different meanings. Caves and the cave echoes, they give different meanings. So they are multi-dimensional, but rather ambiguous, and meant to be in accordance with its philosophical themes. So he uses different figures of speech to give a clear and additional meaning to his work, and his use of symbolism, metaphor, alliteration, simile, personification, and imagery proves that he's a modernist novelist. So like by using these kind of figures, and he just gave a clear and deeper meaning of to his work by using these figures of speech, and for his readers as well. uh, I hope that you may have get the understanding of the symbols, and if you have any confusion, let me know. And you all know, I guess, my contact number, and you do know how to contact me or your respective teachers about the when you have any confusion. So for now, this is all. Thank you so much for your patience. Stay blessed.